and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. So one of my longtime Whiskey Warrior P1s down in Florida, she's got these, I'm going to call them like LED, I don't know, rope lights or string lights or something like that. Anyway, and so she just sent me a short little video, and oh, what the heck happened? I'm all of a sudden not going very well here. Oh, okay. Yeah. Rope lights, string lights, something like that. Anyway, she just sent me this little video, and the video itself has the rope lights in red, white, and blue going behind the television. That's right. I am on TV. 15 seconds of fame. There we go. Trust me, I look a lot better on a smaller screen than I do a large one, but, you know, to each their own. Anyway, it was kind of cool. And, yeah, so there you go. Oh, I enjoy my Whiskey Warrior P1s. You guys make all of this just wonderful and fantastic. All right. Well, tonight we have, for the Pledge of Allegiance, one of the OG Whiskey Warrior P1s, Outlaw Dogs, is up. I know she normally doesn't watch the show live right now because she's too busy doing many other things, one of which being that she is a swim instructor. So anyway, I know she'll watch it later, so she'll get a kick out of her pledge. There we go. Her pledge being played. So anyway, if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Outlaw Dogs as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, Outlaw Dogs, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style or reciting it, either way, and take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file that creates, and send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation. Yeah, or you can share it. If you're doing it on your phone, I guess share is the way you do that. Share will actually pull up the little, the ability to email, I guess. So you can share it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. All right, let's go ahead with tonight's headline sponsor, which is the IOTC. That's right, the Institute on the Constitution. Was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, and to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Free Chevy says all pages have a 100-year numerical order guarantee. And, of course, Bonnie always has to remind me of the sexy rounded corners. Nana chimes in and says it causes liberals to get great gastric discomfort. Anyway, go to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today. Let's take a look at this wonderful thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. It's got no cheap glue here, folks. That's stitching that goes all the way through the leather and the pages contained within. And as we already know, it's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if something does happen to go wrong with this thing, in that time frame, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is, rest in peace, my friend, buddy tested and buddy approved. It is Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you study for your civics badge in Scouts and also your civics test if they still have them. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online today and go and grab one of these. Hey, stocking stuffer. I'm telling you, stocking stuffer. Great thing coming up. It's Christmas, 70 or 69 days or something like that. I don't know what the count is, but it's not that far away. Get one, get two, get three, get a pack, and give them out to all of your friends. They will appreciate it. Well, at least all your conservative ones will. Anyway, go to constitution.americanperspective.online to do that. And don't forget to check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings, as they are a fantastic affiliate of mine, and they have wonderful stuff all about our fantastic country that we call home. Yes, 3 Chevy, that would be nice if if people had a 100-year warranty. Anyway, all right. So I got to get a stinger. I really do. I got to get a stinger that does breaking news. I got to figure out something. I got to find something so I can say breaking news or whatever it is. Anyway, so the ex-National Security Advisor, John Bolton. Oh, thank you, Nana. Nana of JJS, of course, my mathematical major out there. She went ahead and just says it is 70 days exactly today. So that is fantastic. All right, ex-National Security Advisor John Bolton. That's right, John Bolton. You know, Mr. Bushy Mustache. He has been indicted on 18 counts of improper handling of classified documents by a federal grand jury. Yes, yes, yes. This is good. This is a good thing. John Bolton, for those of you that don't know who John Bolton is, let me go ahead and show you. Oh, might help if I actually have it ready to go, but, there he is. There he is, John Bolton, ex-National Security Advisor. There he is, live at large and in charge if you're on a TV. 53, 55, whatever kind of inch. Anyway, so yep, there he is. There he is, the man himself. Now, I just got to say this. If you are going to steal classified documents, if you are going to break the law, You don't admit that you did it in a freaking book. You know, I don't. There's a reason why criminals get caught. Because they're stupid. I mean, that is like a really dumb move. Like, yeah, it's, classified documents. I put it in my book. Yeah. Uh-huh. Anyway. We'll have to see what happens throughout the trial of this guy. But, yep. He has been indicted. We're going to, you know, I personally hope that for the next 3 years, 3+ years that Trump is in charge, we just keep having this go. I want to see like Letitia James and Adam Shifty Schiff and John Bolton and all of these people. I mean, I just want to see all of them just have their days in court and go away for a very long time. All right. Well, let's get on to the sad state of affairs. Sad state of affairs, meaning that, yep, we're one more day into the shutdown. And actually, it's probably going to extend over the weekend, too, because John Thune, the Senate leader, he basically offered up the vote today, and there's no plan as of now to have another vote before Monday or Tuesday, actually. You know, these morons have actually been working only 3-day weeks. So they're going into a long weekend, and of course the Senate failed to pass the legislation to fund the department, or to fund the government, period. But there was an interesting twist today. Instead of doing just the CR, they also were had up for a vote for a bill to fund the Department of War for the next fiscal year. And that passed, or did not pass. So putting military personnel and operations in jeopardy as the government continues to be shut down. Senate Democrats blocked the defense appropriations bill that would pay the service members with a raise and fund our national defense. So, yeah, that went, you know, to the wayside. These are Senate Democrats, folks. Senate Democrats. And this one was a final vote of 50-44, which again didn't hit the 60 votes needed for passage. 3 Democrats voted with the Republicans to pass the bill. Of course, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, and then we have a couple new ones, Jean, yeah, I think it's Jean Shaheen of New Hampshire, and Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada joined with the Republicans. So, yeah. Tim Sheehy, who is a senator from Montana, wrote on X, Dems just voted against funding our military, even though this was a bipartisan appropriations bill. The Schumer shutdown continues to be an embarrassing spectacle for our republic. Let's get back to work. I agree. Shelley Moore Capito. What is it with these people with 3 names? Anyway, Shelley Moore Capito, who's a senator and a Republican from West Virginia, said, in the minds of Senate Democrats, voting for the defense appropriations bill that pays our troops relinquishes some of the party's leverage over shutdown negotiations. Okay. So, yeah. So Thune actually made a comment and said, hey, if Democrat senators want to stop the defense bill, I don't think it's very good optics for them. Well, no, it's not. But, of course, the whole shutdown isn't very good optics for those morons because they're doing it. They're basically holding the government and its personnel hostage over bullcrap, partisan, not bipartisan, but partisan requests. Now, here's the thing, folks. John Thune actually has tried to extend an olive branch to the Democrats. See, the Democrats are sitting here and they're basically saying, we are not going to do anything unless you give us this. Which that is a rollback of legislation that had passed in both houses and has already been signed. That's part of the one big beautiful bill. Well, John Thune tried to say, look, just pass the CR, all right? Just pass the CR, and I guarantee you we will put a vote up on the Senate floor to extend the COVID-era Obamacare premium tax credits, as long as you vote on the continuing resolution as it stands. And Thune said in an interview with MSNBC, quote, we can guarantee you get a vote by a date certain. At some point, Democrats are going to have to take yes for an answer. Now, Thune did say, hey, I can't guarantee it's going to pass, but I can guarantee you that you'll get a process and that you'll get a vote. But even that's not enough for the Democrats. Because House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said, I haven't confirmed that that's an actual offer that has been made, but we've been very clear that we need to decisively address the Republican health care crisis. Notice how he phrases that. Because what he doesn't understand, or what he refuses to understand, dime store Obama here, what he doesn't seem to get is that it was the Democrats who, it was the Democrats who shut down the government to push Obamacare through. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. These guys, they're just going to play back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson, who was questioned about Thune's remarks on Thursday, said that Democrats had rejected the proposal demanding an absolute guarantee that the subsidies would be extended. See, we went from, hey, the subsidies aren't going to be extended, we're going to shut down the government until the subsidies are extended, to the Republicans saying, hey, look, we can't guarantee it's going to pass, but we'll at least put it on the docket so it can be up for a vote. Now, keep in mind, these subsidies that they're talking about, they actually don't end until the end of the calendar year. So they're not even, we're still, like I said, 70 days to Christmas? They're going to take a 2-week break at Christmas. I know that. And they have some time off at Thanksgiving as well. So there is a little bit of time for the Democrats to kind of come together and try to garner enough votes to be able to extend those subsidies in that time. But no, they're not even going to bother. The Democrats are basically saying to the Republicans, yeah, it's our way or the highway. So, yeah. Chuck Schumer said no. So here's what Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said about it. He says, let me tell you what happened yesterday, because I met with Leader Thune and he offered to Chuck Schumer a vote on Obamacare subsidies. And Schumer said no. That happened because they want a guaranteed outcome. Johnson added, the Obamacare subsidy issue is not the issue of today. It is a subsidy that expires December 31st. We were always planning to continue the debate and discussion. It is a very complicated, complex matter. There's no income tax or income caps on that. And by the way, Did you know that if you're a hardworking taxpayer, you are subsidizing wealthy people's health care with that subsidy? Johnson explained that he and the rest of the Republican leadership are incapable of guaranteeing a result from Congress. And he's right. I mean, in order to make it fair, you can't guarantee how people are going to vote. Johnson said, we have 535 members between the House and Senate. There's a lot of people in this deliberative body here. That's a very complicated issue. It's not something that 4 people can go into a back room and guarantee an outcome. It can't be done. So, yeah. Yep. So this is part of the tactic that the Senate Republicans are trying to employ in order to break this deadlock, which is essentially continuing to bring appropriations bills to the floor as an attempt to reawaken bipartisanship in the chamber. And yeah, that's apparently not going to work. So, the Senate Appropriations Committee Representative Susan Collins from Maine recently said of the attempt that if the Democrats can see regular appropriations process running more smoothly, that might encourage them. If we can show that we can move the appropriations bills, there's absolutely no justification or rationale for a government shutdown. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise told the Daily Signal the appropriations process had actually been working well before the shutdown, and that talks continued despite the partisan gridlock. So, yeah. In other words, the Democrats are just going to keep things shut down. That's all. They are essentially saying with no uncertain terms, it's our way or nothing. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Well, Chuck Schumer, he, let's just say that he, is still pushing the rhetoric. That horrible rhetoric that, of course, everybody has been trying to calm down, okay? But Chuck Schumer doesn't seem to want to. Take a listen. He was on MSNBC here, and, yeah, we'll just see what he says. Oh, I wasn't expecting that.
A hallmark of tyrannical, autocratic dictatorship societies that they use the prosecutorial department as a political weapon. It is a disgrace, and every American, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, moderate, people should be forcefully rising up against this. It is just such a hallmark of tyrannical, autocratic dictatorship societies.
Okay, I wanted to catch that first part. So here he was discussing in particular the indictment of Letitia James. So apparently it's a hallmark of authoritative, autocratic societies to actually want to hold people, all people, accountable for the law. That's what he's saying here. He's basically saying that, yeah, you know, we don't want to keep our people. We don't want people to be, shall we say, accountable for their actions. Yeah, really? I personally want to go back to law and order. I want to go back to the part where everybody obeyed the law. And that if you were caught not obeying the law, that you received a massive amount of punishment. That way, you would think twice about doing it again. By the way, my OCD is kicking in because I don't know if anybody can see this. But back here behind Chucky Schumer, one of his pictures is off kilter. It doesn't line up with the back of his couch. Oh my gosh, that would just drive me nuts. That would just drive me nuts if I saw it. Hey, anyway. Oh, my gosh. Chucky. Well, anyway. He also, by the way, was, yeah, again, just adding his voice to all of that, we should resist Trump's authoritarianism, except for the fact that it's not authoritarianism. It's actually enforcing laws that have already been on the books for decades now, that should have been enforced for decades now. Yeah. So, Chuck Schumer apparently also in that same thing called for people to forcefully rise up against tyranny. Yeah, forcefully rise up against a government that is trying to enforce the actual written law that pretty much everybody agrees with. I mean, yeah. I think that's actually a call for an insurrection. Because according to dictionary.com, the definition of insurrection is a violent uprising against an authority or government. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a bit of a problem. And they're going to keep going on this, by the way. They're just going to keep this up. They are, because they don't care. They don't care about the rhetoric. They don't care about any of this stuff. They just don't care. They literally do not care. By the way, there's a new poll out that shows that a majority of voters in America, well, they actually support this idea of President Trump deploying the National Guard to defend ICE across the United States. The poll was conducted by Rasmussen Reports from October 7th to October 9th, shows that a 52% of likely U.S. voters support Trump's deployment of the National Guard to defend ICE facilities, which have faced repeated attacks by left-wing protesters over the past several months. Yep. By the way, the 52% of voters includes 39% of likely U.S. voters who strongly support. So 39% of the 52 strongly support the deployment. Yeah. Yep. And only 43% oppose, and that includes a 33% who are strongly opposing. So, interesting. Anyway, in addition to the question on Trump's use of the National Guard to provide additional protection for ICE facilities, likely U.S. voters were also asked whether they approve or disapprove of the Trump administration's operations to locate and deport illegal immigrants. The poll there found 53% of likely U.S. voters approve of the Trump administration operations. Yep. There you go. In another question, Rasmussen Reports asked U.S. voters, do you agree or disagree with this statement? We have seen over the last 9 months an ongoing legal insurrection in which district court judges have issued rulings that are flagrantly unlawful and unconstitutional. And this is true. I would have been one of the 56% had I been asked. 56% agreed with that statement. They are flagrantly unlawful and unconstitutional. I'm telling you, you cannot have a lower court created by Congress have a power that even Congress does not have. Congress cannot confer onto the lower courts a power that it does not possess. That's it. Anyway. Now, that poll, by the way, was conducted with just under 1,200 likely U.S. voters and had a 3% margin of error. So, yeah. Again, the deployment of the National Guard, the immigration enforcement operations, those are all what are called 80-20 issues. 80% of the country, or at least a vast majority of the country, agree with that kind of thing. With the, you know, they know that that's going to be a thing. All right, let me go over here, and let me talk to you about good old friends on Rumble. If you haven't already, make sure you download the Rumble app. It's free, simple to use, and the best way to stay connected to the content that you want. Once you've got it, search for this channel right here, American Perspective, and hit that follow button. That way you'll get a notification every time that I go live. No missed shows, no extra steps. You can grab it right now using the link in the description or pinned in the live chat. Download it to your phone and you're ready to go. And if you prefer watching on the big screen, like 3 Chevy does with a 55-inch screen, or like Bonnie does on a 42-inch screen, you can definitely check me out in all of my 1080p glory, 1920 by 1080. I don't know if you really want me on that side. Anyway, if you want, if you prefer watching it on that kind of a big screen, Rumble is available on all major streaming devices and smart TVs. Just search for Rumble and follow this channel and be part of the action. So once again, you can search up Rumble and follow this channel on your TV and be part of the action. You know what some of my Whiskey Warriors do is they watch me on television and then they chat with us in the background on the Rumble chat on either their phone or their tablet. So there you go. Oh, and apparently my television size is enough that Bonnie can actually see that I need to comb my mustache. There you go. Once again, go download the Rumble app, follow the channel. That way you will not miss a single episode, okay? Download the Rumble app to your phone. Take me with you. Take me on the road. You can watch me anywhere, all right? And you can do that. And then, of course, don't forget to do the television as well. So that's it. Go ahead, download the Rumble app, get it on both your TV and your mobile device, and you'll be all set and ready to go. All right, download the Rumble app today. Okay. Well, you know, we're getting closer slowly. We're getting closer and closer and closer to a interesting midterm. And, well, let's just say that when you have Harry Enton on CNN a little bit excited about some stuff going on, well, you might want to take a listen, Democrats. But here, let's take a listen to what Harry has to say.
You go back 6 months ago, you go back to April, Cape Baldwin, what were we looking at? Well, we were looking at the Democrats with a very clear shot of taking control of the U.S. House of Representatives, according to the Kalshi prediction market odds. We saw them at an 83% chance. But those odds have gone plummeting down. Now we're talking about just a 63% chance, while the GOP's chances up like a rocket, up like gold, up from 17% to now a 37% chance. So we'll look like a pretty clear likely Democratic win in the House come next year. Has become much closer to a toss-up at this point, although still slightly leaning Democratic.
What's changed? What do you think?
Okay, what has changed? Well, why don't we just take a look at the national picture first? Take a look at voters and how they're feeling about things. And we can take a look at the generic congressional ballot. And I want to take a look and compare it to 2017, 2018, right? Because that's sort of the baseline. That was, of course, the first Trump term. That was where Democrats are sort of keeping pace. You go back to April, look at the generic congressional ballot. What you see? You see +3 Democrats in 2025 in April. You see +3 Democrats back in April of 2017. Now jump over to this side of the screen. What happens? Well, the Democrats are no longer keeping pace with the pace that they were setting back in 2017, 2018. You look back in 2017, you saw that the Democrats had leaped up to an 8-point advantage. I remember covering this. I remember a lot of folks, including myself, saying, you know what, Republicans look pretty decent right now in terms of the fact that they had the House, they had the Senate, they had the presidency, but things were likely going to flip. And I was looking for the same signs this year. The bottom line is it hasn't happened, Kate Baldwin. It hasn't happened. Democrats have stayed basically steady. They have fallen off the pace. Democrats were way out ahead back in 2017 on the generic congressional ballot. And now we're basically looking at Democrats ahead. But again, they are so far in back of the pace that they set back there. And so I think what a lot of folks are seeing, folks like myself, are saying, wait a minute, given what we might be seeing in redistricting, is this +3 going to be enough, Kate Baldwin?
Well, that's what I.
Okay. So he brought up a good point there. He brought up the redistricting. Yeah, the redistricting. Now, I mean, let's be honest. +3, yeah, that's nothing to write home about. I mean, seriously, the Republicans cannot afford to sit on their laurels and say, hey, yeah, it's a +3 today. No, they need to get out. You need to vote. You need to push friends to vote Republican. But that being the case, this whole redistricting thing is a huge deal. And yesterday, the SCOTUS heard this race-based redistricting case from Louisiana. And I know I'm kind of spending a little bit of time on this because of the fact that this is an important case. This is a extremely important case. People don't seem to understand how much okay, let me just explain to you, and this is part of the reason where Charlie Kirk has gotten involved or had gotten attacked for being racist against this. And I'm in the same boat, for the most part, as Charlie Kirk. Okay? The purpose of the Civil Rights Act, the purpose of laws that have basically tried to counteract societal ills like racism, they have their place. They have had their place across all of time in our country. However, they do not need to exist in perpetuity. Just like unions. Unions served their time. They had their purposes way back in the day to protect workers. But now we have federal laws that are doing basically the same job as the unions in terms of protecting workers. And even now, there are several unions and union-enabled businesses and industries that sometimes, I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I'm coming down on the side of being against the union when they do certain things like striking and stuff like that. Because half the time they're striking for something that is just, they so far-fetched, so far out there, that they no longer are actually protecting the workers. They are actually being more detrimental toward the workers. And that same kind of thought process, you want to talk about like rising costs and things, all of this stuff comes in and and basically can cause a lot of problems. Okay? There are times where we need laws to be put in place to counteract things that are injustices. Like the Civil Rights Act, 1965, like the Voting Rights Act, which was put in order to try and combat Jim Crow laws. Which, by the way, Jim Crow laws were put in place by the Democrats. Anyway, the point is that these kinds of laws, they've had their day. In today's day and age, and let's be completely honest, because all of the statistics out there do not display what the Democrats want you to believe. See, the Democrats want you to believe that, you know, police officers are going out and they're just picking black people and they're shooting them for no reason. That's not what's happening. However, what is happening is the fact that roughly 13% of the population, meaning the black Americans, are responsible for roughly 50% of the violent crime. That is a statistic, a factual statistic. And therefore, absolutely, when you extract and use a little logic and reason here, when you extrapolate that and you say, oh, well, okay, 13% of the population is interacting with the police or doing bad things 50% of the time. So therefore, they're going to have more interactions with the police. So that's what's going to make it look, anecdotally anyway, that their interactions with the police are potentially racially motivated, if you ignore the simple statistics and facts, which is exactly what the Democrats do. Because they can't look at statistics and facts and realize, hey, this is the truth. It's no different than the supposition by most liberal Democrats who sit there and say, you know what? Yeah, there's a reason why we can't use voter ID because, you know, black people, they don't know where to get a driver's license. They don't know where to get ID. They have no idea where to get it. And, you know, they don't know how to operate a phone and work the internet. And that's not my view. Because I guarantee you, they all know how to work the internet. Give me a break. Everybody knows how to work the internet for the most part. I mean, when you have 80-year-old people working the internet better than I do, you can pretty much say that it's highly likely. Now, you could go around and find somebody who may not know how to work the internet, okay? It is possible, but the probability is fairly low. Now, you're sitting here and you're saying, why in the hell does all of this matter? Well, it's pretty simple. First of all, we have 3 justices on the Supreme Court who are activists. They are not real jurists, okay? One of them couldn't even tell you the basic biological definition of a woman. In fact, she even refused to answer because she's not a biologist. Now, that same woman, who is honestly probably one of the most moronic ones of all the Supreme Court justices that we have ever had, okay? She was making an argument yesterday, and, she made a really, really poor comparison. Let's just go ahead and take a listen to Ketanji Brown Jackson making this comparison about black people. Take a listen.
I guess I'm thinking of it, of the fact that remedial action, absent discriminatory intent, is really not a new idea in the civil rights laws. And my kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right? They're disabled. In fact, we use the word disable in Milligan. We say that's a way in which you see that these processes are not equally open.
Did you catch that? Did you catch what she was saying here? She's basically making the argument that black people are akin to people with other disabilities, like physical disabilities, that they have to be in wheelchairs and things of that nature. Wait, what? An immutable characteristic, meaning the color of your skin, is akin to having another disability somewhere. And that this Voting Rights Act is... How do you even go that far? How do you even go that far? And by the way, she's sitting here trying to make this assumption or make this argument with the idea that she doesn't apparently think that black Americans can change their voting habits. Because that's what this is all about. Okay? They, meaning the Democrats, are trying to make it so that voting or districts in states, and I showed you the image of the one that's in Louisiana that stretches like 3/4 of the way across the states, all right? But that these states must have minority districts. They must have them. Because if they don't have them, you're disenfranchising these voters. I'm still trying I'm still struggling with the idea. How are you going to disenfranchise a voter? Are these districts making it so that they no longer are able to vote? No. Are these districts making it so that, that their vote is watered down? No, because your vote counts the same. By the way, I just want to point this out. I am a Republican in a very blue section of what is widely considered to be a very blue state. So because I vote Republican in a very Democrat-heavy state, I am technically in the minority. So why is it that you as a black person or any other minority, I'm just picking on black folks because that's what she's talking, I'm just pointing out black folks just like because that's what she's talking about here. Race itself. I'm sitting here and I'm saying, hey, I'm a Republican. I vote Republican. I voted Republican pretty much all of my life. I've never voted Democrat. And I'm in a Democrat state, a Democrat-run state, in a Democrat-run county. I'm in a Democrat-run district. Why is it that I can't get a district or get this redistricting done based on my vote? You see how stupid that sounds? Oh, I'm just going to, we're just going to arbitrarily say that race automatically sets up for Democrats. Traditionally, that has been the case. That minorities have traditionally voted for Democrats, but 2024 changed that. 2024 changed that. And so this whole idea of, we're going to use race as part of our redistricting plan, and we're going to use it, and we're going to make these things like, all stretched out. Which, by the way, the law actually pointed out that if there is a majority of a minority race within a contiguous area meaning a small compacted area, then yes, you need to take that into account. See, but the Democrats and the Democrat legislatures of these states have taken that to the extreme, like they always do, and have basically said, hey, we're just going to create districts regardless in terms of how much race there actually is. Now, the lawyer responded to Jackson, and he said this very, very well thought out answer. He says the difference is that the remedy under the ADA and other anti-discrimination laws is not stereotype. He says it's not race-based. I take your point, but you're saying then that if the problem of no access is about race, it's just too bad because you can't have a remedy that relates to race, is what Jackson replied. And Grimm said, absolutely not. It's not whether it relates to race. It's whether the remedy that relates to race involves stereotyping voters and making assumptions about their politics and their views and their thoughts based on their race. And that's the problem. Folks, this is why I'm telling you, any of these, whether you talk about affirmative action, whether you're talking about DEI, whether you're talking about, there is no way that you can put race as a criterion in any kind of test and make it equal to all races. There is an inherent discriminatory action taken amongst all of that. And so that's why you don't use race as a qualifier. What you do is you basically, like I said yesterday, look at an area, say, okay, we have, so many thousand people per district, and just make the district up out of population. That is your best bet. And if they end up being a Democrat district, great. If they end up being a Republican district, great. If they end up being what is considered a purple district and they go back and forth depending upon the makeup of the people or how they vote, that's even better. Because that is the actual process and a proper and fair process in terms of how this works. Well, our good buddy, Clarence Thomas, I swear he is probably one of the greats on the Supreme Court. He got his shot in all of this. Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what he has to say with regards to this. Oh.
What role did Robinson play in the development of SB 8?
Justice Thomas, Robinson is the only reason SB 8 exists. We fought tooth and nail in the Robinson litigation itself in telling the courts that we did not think the Constitution permitted us to draw a second majority black district. As you know, under protest, we drew SB 8 because the threat was that the federal courts were going to do it if we didn't. And that's, I think that's the best way to conceive of why SB 8 exists. We would never pass SB 8 in the first instance without Robinson, Justice Thomas.
Okay, so just to make something clear here, what he is talking about is the secondary majority black district that was being requested in Louisiana. And this is the second district that he's talking about. So there you go. Give it just a little bit longer here, and let's go back to the clip.
What were the findings in Robinson?
The finding by the Middle District in Robinson was that the plaintiffs in this case were likely to show a violation of Section 2, and the likely violation, and I'm using very broad terminology because I do not know what the underlying violation is. I can't articulate that for you, Justice Thomas, because I don't think anybody can. But I think the finding in the district court's mind in that case was that the likelihood of a Section 2 violation meant that a majority black district was required, a second one. And I think that was the bottom line, and when our legislature saw that, we understood the marching order, and that's why you see SB 8 as it exists today.
Just briefly, what were the findings that led to that conclusion?
Well, Your Honor, running through the preconditions and the totality of the circumstances, I mean, I think the totality of the circumstances did most of the work for the Middle District in Robinson. Senate Factor 1, the official history of past discrimination, Justice Thomas, we can never outrun the bad era of poll taxes, of grandfather clauses, of literacy tests. I think we're always going to lose across the board on that kind of analysis, and that's what the Middle District in Robinson focused on, is how bad was Louisiana in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and, you know, add all that together, and at the end you have a vote dilution finding that I don't think is clearly articulable in the way that SFFA requires a finding of discrimination to be specified.
So, basically, what he is saying there is that the original district court ruling essentially said that, hey, you've got to have a secondary black district in Louisiana because of the fact that you have to have a secondary black district in Louisiana. And, yeah, the explanation basically was, well, the reason why it's even there is because the courts told us that we had to have it there. Folks, this is the point. This is the whole point. We are no longer in the 1960s. We are no longer in the 30s, 40s, 50s. We are no longer in, any of these kinds of cases when black folks who were slaves gained their freedom, gained the ability to vote. None of this. Okay? Now, Clarence Thomas, of course, is essentially saying, and he's clearly showing, that this is about time, folks. This is about time that that basically is race is no longer a big of a factor. And you want to know why? Here, let me show you. Here's why race isn't that big of a factor anymore. Right freaking here. Holy crap. We're sitting here in America. 2025, you have and for those on the audio portion of the program, let me explain. You have 3 SCOTUS justices sitting here. One's a white male. One's a black male. One's a female of Asian origin. You have a white female. You have a couple of other. I mean, seriously. How can you possibly have this boils down to the exact same argument that Morgan Freeman made to Don Lemon many years ago in a interview where Don Lemon was trying to get Morgan Freeman to jump on the racism train, and Morgan Freeman basically says racism doesn't exist in America. He goes, look at the two of us. Basically saying, hey, we're 2 black men who are sitting here on a nationally televised show. Nationally televised. Morgan Freeman, one of the greatest actors that has ever lived in the modern era. You see it all over the place. There is no racism in America today. Not widespread racism that requires any of this. The vast majority of people no longer really look at race. They just don't. They don't look at race in a bottle as a separate piece that is immediately for hate. You're going to find it. There are going to be pockets. I'm not going to deny that. But you can't sit here and tell me that race is the single most factor, okay, across the board. But yet, when you sit here and try to implement things that are supposed to create some sort of a balance on a scale that is already pretty damn balanced, you create an imbalance, which is exactly what they are doing. See, this is all of this boils down to one thing and one thing only, and that is the bigotry of low expectations. It is a soft bigotry that the left has used on a regular basis, and that is why their identity politics need to come into play. They have identity politics. They have to put you in a box. They have to tell you that you have been oppressed. They have to tell you that you are a victim, because otherwise you end up having to take responsibility and accountability for the things that you have done in your life. And that is exactly what they don't want to have happen. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. I have one more article here, but I don't think I'm going to carry it on. Anyway, it's about that time. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, you can join in the Rumble chats, which are exciting. Also, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Don't forget to download the Rumble app to your television. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.